Hello, 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 everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
We're back.
We're back. Hello. Hello. Season 5. Season 5.
Is it season 5?
Season 5.
Whoa.
We're back with another episode of Beyond a Thought podcast where we're talking about issues you're probably thinking about. My name is Lynette.
My name is Z.
And today we're joined by...
I'm Jacendy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. Thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you for joining us. So, if whoever tuned in to our last live, it was our first live actually.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on live on Instagram Live to kind of give some tidbits on what would be coming for season 5 as we wrapped up season 4, and that season 5 we will be getting more guests on this podcast, because last season it was a lot of banter between both of us, but we really wanted to get some folks on to talk about things that are going on in their life, things that we can learn from, some nuggets that we can glean from. Today is a very important conversation that we're going to be having with Jacendy. Jacendy's is my close friend, and Z's too, his friend.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about secondary infertility. In one of our previous episodes, we've talked about infertility.
We had a guest on
that one with Gucci, and
yeah.
I think it took off really. It was actually one of the topics that was most listened to in that season. Because it's such an important conversation to talk about infertility, where a lot of people don't really talk about,
Especially in our circles, like in Christian, Black. No,
nobody really talks about it because it's such a sensitive issue. Very touchy. It's very close to home. It can be very personal, right? Because people's stories, right? And people are trying to conceive, and some people don't want to share that kind of information. So we had that conversation with her, and it wasn't. It was. I can recap a little bit because it's been on the podcast. She had been trying, and this was her first child, and that conversation was within the midst of her having her first. This conversation that we're going to have today is within the context of having a child, one child, and then trying for another, and then it's like crickets. It's not happening. It's like, what happens then? And this is how close it has been for me, because it's with Jacendy. But we're going to have that conversation about the kind of loops and folds that she went through when it comes to her journey. So we're not going to talk too much. We're going to dive right in, and we're going to turn it over to Jacendy and ask her to introduce yourself to the folks.
Hi, like Lynette says, my name is Jacendy. I'm from Haiti. I am married, and I have 2 beautiful kids. A boy and a girl. A girl and a boy. What else?
What do you do for work?
Okay. I'm a cardiology technologist. A lot of people always take me for a nurse, and I'm not a nurse.
People come up to you and like, what's this growing on my face?
They come to me, especially at church. We need shoes, like during the COVID time for vaccine, and I'm not a nurse. I'm a technologist, so I work at the General Hospital for about 12 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so currently on mat leave. Anything else?
That's good. Anything you want to add, Z?
No? Let's dive right in.
Let's dive right in.
Yeah, so we're talking about, our first episode, let's just backtrack a little bit, because I think there's a difference between the two of them.
Yes.
So the first episode we did on infertility was, I don't know if it's called primary infertility, but it's just infertility when you're trying to conceive a first child.
Yeah.
But Sandy, I don't. That's not your experience, is it?
No.
Your experience is secondary infertility. So can we talk about what is that?
Secondary infertility, it's when you already have a child. You have your first child, and then you, like you say, you're trying for your second, and then it's not happening. There could be various reasons why it's not happening. But in my case, there's no reason. It just wasn't happening.
So okay, why don't you tell
so then like, when did you have? I guess like, when did you have your first? When was it?
So I had my daughter in 2019. So I was 26 years old when I had her. Like that was almost 5 years ago. That's when I had, and there was no problem. Like my husband and I, we started trying in May, and at the end of June I was pregnant.
Oh wow!
So there was no complications.
Quick.
It was very quick.
Yeah.
So, no issues, and the pregnancy was smooth, even though there was some sort of like minor thing. But she's almost 5, so there's no issues with that.
Yeah.
But
So I remember, and I don't know if I could say this, but I mean, I'll take it out if I don't have to. I can't. But I remember I had, I think before I had my second, I was talking to Sandy about, it would be nice if we had like, our mat leaves together, because she's my close friend. And I was like, it'd be so great. Like we would go on walks together and do all the things. And it was a slight hesitation that it was like, okay, yeah, I hope so too, like, kind of thing. And I was like, like that's not like the response that I would immediately think that she would, because she's usually happy about those kind of things. And then I was like, okay. And then she later on told me that they had been trying, I think at that point for about a year, and nothing was happening. So how from your first to, I guess, from your first, I guess how long did it take for you to get,
or like, what was the story? Like, what happened? So you had your first, and then when did you decide, okay, it's time for your second? So take us through the journey.
So my husband and I, we, even before we got married, we said that we wanted to have, he said 5 kids, but for me I was more like, I want 3, and then if there's an oops, maybe like we'll have 4, but I'm an only child on my mom's side, so I wanted to have like a big family, not too big, but like growing up, like I didn't grow up with siblings. It was just me and my mom, cousins, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
So we had that conversation, and we said that we were gonna space ourselves. Like when we have our first kid, we'll wait about 3 years, and then we'll try for another one. So that way, when the first one is ready for school, then we'll have another one and things like that. So that was the conversation we had. But then when we had our daughter, almost when she was 2 years, so she was born in 2019. So at the end of 2020, my husband came to me and said, I really want another kid. And at that point, because my daughter was in daycare and where we lived, we were going through some tough time with the daycare that she was in, because they were like mistreating her and stuff. And I was a little bit down, and I started asking myself, like, why is this happening and things like that. Like, I started questioning myself. And then when he came to me about it, and I said, I don't think I'm ready to like go on mat leave again. Like I just got back to work. I want the freedom of like not having to stay home. So I was like, I'm not ready yet. And then he said, think about it. I said, okay, I'll think about it, but I'm telling you, I'm not ready.
Flat out. Not a conversation we're gonna have for sure.
That was the conversation. And then end of 2020, then I said, you know what, like we were talking, we started talking about it again. It was close to Christmas, and he was like, have you given it any thought? Like,
and this was in pandemic 2020.
2020.
Some of us are like, we don't want to get pregnant. You guys are like, so like, we're in a pandemic. Let's add a child.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
But it was like just before Christmas.
Yeah.
It was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just, put everything in God's hands and let's do it. Because I was thinking too much, like I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna go into another mat leave. And since the one
that's
that
valid
had,
though.
like
that's completely valid. Like let's just put it out there. Like especially after you've gone through, you birthed a child, and then you're starting to feel the freedom of not having to like do the baby breastfeed, the baby stage, and all of that. Like you want your liberty. So that's completely valid.
It. So I was like, you know what? Like I've given it some thought, and I'll put it in God's hands. Whatever. Like if a baby comes, then we'll just embrace it. So we decided to start trying that weekend.
Okay. Wow.
Christmas weekend.
Busy weekend. Hello.
Busy.
Hello. Now with the purpose.
Sorry.
And because that with my first, a month later, I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was expecting the same result.
Yes.
And when January come at work, I was forced to take the COVID shot. Because I knew I was starting to. My husband and I were trying. We just started, and then I started having doubts in my head, like, is this COVID thing gonna be? How is it gonna affect my body? Is it gonna interfere with the whole like? What if this doesn't happen? Like, and we didn't know what the COVID shot, but like, there were so many things about it. So I've prayed about it, and I told him, I said, you know what, I prayed about it, and I have peace. I'm gonna take the shot. We'll keep on trying, and we just kept on trying from that month. January comes, February comes, period comes, March, and then I believe it was mid-August of 2021. By then, it was 8 months. So I said, something is wrong. Why is it like we've been trying for 8 months? And at that point, I'm like tracking. I've bought like ovulation kits from Amazon. My husband like got pills and to like help
your immune system, I guess.
Your immune system, or the creation of the seed. Like let's increase the number of little guys. That's it.
And we're just like, why is this not happening? Like he's like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm eating healthy, and I'm like, well, I'm exercising, and my cycles, I check, and
they're spot on.
It's on. Yeah. So I was like, why is it not happening? And we do it on the date I'm ovulating. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I went to see my doctor, my family doctor, and I told him what was going on, and he said, you know what, like here in Canada, if you're less than 35 years old, you have to try for 1 year before they can refer you to a fertility clinic. So because we were at 8 months, I still had 4 months to go. And he said, you know what, once you reach the 1 year, come back and I'll refer you to a fertility doctor. And I said, okay. So we went back, but it was still like, you feel like you're doing everything right. You've prayed about it, but still there's no results. So we did the whole year. Same thing, like trying and on your day, and it became a chore. It was no longer like fun. And it just started feeling some sort of like the love wasn't there. It was there, but it was like,
here we go again.
What day is it today? Like, are you ovulating and things like that? And it just felt like, do I have to do this? So at one point, it just, I told my husband, actually, I said, I don't want to feel like a slave. I feel like this is like slavery. Like if we've been praying for a child, and I said, if it's in God's will, should we be feeling like this? Like, shouldn't we like love on each other and things like that? Why is it that we're arguing? Why is it that we, like we're feeling resentment towards, one another? So, that's the end of 2021 concluded. Now we're in 2022, and same thing, right? So, I don't know if I've answered your question.
No, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
It's the same thing.
So just girl, you tell us the story.
So 2022 comes, and it was January. my husband was like, we have to go see the doctor because like it's the end of 20. So now we're at 1 year exactly.
Yeah.
Went to call my doctor's office and we were told that he was off on leave. So we couldn't have access to him. And the only option was to go to a walk-in clinic, and then the doctor will refer us. So we went to a walk-in clinic, and when we went, the doctor, he was helpful. He said, okay, don't worry, I'll send a referral. But we thought we were gonna get a referral at the Ottawa Fertility Clinic because that's where we live here.
Yeah.
But we got a referral in Montreal.
Oh. Where was this walk-in clinic? Was it in Castleman?
No, the walk-in clinic is at Train Yard.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was a Train Yard, but for some reason, I think he looked at my address and then he realized, oh, like
It
Montreal,
would be
closer.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
but that's Quebec.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry, I'm
Quebec.
being technical. We're in Ontario. How are you gonna refer someone out province?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go on. Go on. I can go on about that. That's not
So he referred us to, but we didn't know at the time. We were waiting for the phone call. So when we got the phone call, it was like end of February, beginning of March. When we got the phone call that we're gonna be sitting with the fertility specialist, it was the first appointment was on Zoom, or Microsoft Teams or something like that. So we met with him. Apparently, he's one of the best fertility doctor in Canada.
Oh, okay.
So when I heard that, I was like, you know,
Okay,
okay,
He's
well,
the best.
he's the best, you know.
We got the best. Yeah. You know, we got this. We'll have a baby in 1 month. No worries.
That's it. So my hope kind of went up.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like 100%. Oh yeah, we're about to
We're
have
about to
a
have a
baby.
baby. Yeah.
And he during the call and he started like listing the things that he has accomplished in, in the UK and all
his
these
accolades.
things. Like,
I've never heard that. So a doctor telling you,
yes,
I am the best.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And the like studies that he's been a part of, and that embryos and all these things. The first embryo, the first implant. He was one of those doctors. And
Oh, wow.
this and that.
Is
Like
this a paid doctor? Like, were you paying to see him, or was this like?
The thing is, that's the first appointment, so I didn't know anything,
okay.
right? Like,
Okay.
they never told me anything about billings and stuff like that. Because here I am, I've done my research about the fertility treatments and stuff like that, clinics, how they work. And I know that if you go in towards the treatment stuff, the first one is paid. Like here in Ottawa, Ontario, the first round, I think it's covered by the government, but it's the list. So in my head, going to the fertility doctor, my husband and I from the get-go, we said we just want to know what's wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't want treatment.
Yes.
We were not there yet.
Yeah.
Because all we said was we want to know what's wrong, and if there is something wrong, how can we fix it?
Yeah.
In the meantime, we'll pray. Because I said I don't want to do IVF or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what was wrong.
Right.
So when he started talking and told me like what we needed to do, getting the testings done, blood work, sperm tests, fallopian tube, getting all this ultrasound. So we said, okay, we'll do it because we want to know what's wrong. So he sent all the paperwork. We went and did blood work. My husband did his. I did mine. I had to do an ultrasound to check my tubes and stuff like that to see if there's any blockage. My husband had to do sperm tests. So we did everything that they were asked us to do. When we started doubting, when he asked us to pay. There were one test that he asked us to pay, and we were like, oh, like isn't it free? Like, why is it that we have to pay for sperm tests? And we did the research. It says that it's covered under OHIP. So why is it that he said, well, like here it's a private clinic.
Okay.
So you're a private clinic. He's like, yes, we're a private clinic here in Montreal. So we are not part of the program with the government and stuff like that. So I said, okay, no
They could have told you this like in the beginning.
But I guess they probably assume that if you go there,
You're going for IVF.
You're going for IVF, or you're going for.
I think that's the assumption that they would make.
That's the assumption. Nobody ever asked.
Yeah.
So
That's it.
so we did everything, and when it was time for us to get the results, the girl, lost the file. Like she misplaced it somehow, and she thought I was someone else. And she said, "Oh, did you not have a miscarriage not long ago?" And I said, "No, no, that's not me."
Yeah.
So after like a few days or so, they said, "Okay, we have to reschedule because we thought it was, we thought it was your file, but it was somebody else's." So we rescheduled the call, and then while I was at work, we sat down with the doctor on Zoom again, and then he started telling us that everything was fine. Like there was no issue, no blockages. My husband's sperm was good. Everything was fine. So then I started asking myself, like, why then it's not happening? If everything is fine, it's just simple as that. The sperm goes in,
Peen goes into the gene, like,
and
sperm
joins.
Exactly.
So
fireworks, all
So I
done.
said, why is it not happening?
Yeah.
But that doctor then, he proceeded and said, well, like sometimes things happen, like it could be hormone, it could be like, there's so many things that could prevent the sperm from like reaching the eggs. But he's like, we don't know. We did all the tests, everything came back. You guys are healthy, you're young. But this is when I found out that the clinic wasn't like how much the IVF cost, and also that he was more into the money instead of like helping. Because he told me, he said, well, like, you already have a child. I said, yes. And he said, well, you're 29 years old. Because now we're in 2022, like May 2022. So he said, you're 29 years old. Women were, they were meant to have babies early, like in their early years.
Like you're late.
Like it's like telling you that you're old.
That's basically what he's telling you, no?
Basically. And he said, like, we're talking about 12, 13 years old back in the day. So at 29 years old, you kind of like getting closer to,
what, menopause?
Like a geriatric pregnancy? Like, what is this?
So when he said that, I was like, excuse me, like, I'm only 29. What are you talking about?
Like, get over yourself.
And he said, well, like, we have to do IVF. And I said, well, like, you didn't even ask me whether or not I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I said, I've done my research and I know there's IUI as well.
So IUI is intrauterine insemination.
Yes.
So instead of it going, so they inject the sperm directly into your uterus, as opposed to having like some sort of like petri dish where they put the eggs and the sperm and they create a baby. Yeah. Just wanted to, put it out there for you guys.
They wash the sperm and then they put it.
Okay.
So I said, there's that. Why can't I do that? And I said, before I even said that, I said, is there like some sort of medication you can give me, like hormonal medication to help? If it's my ovulation, maybe my cycle is too short. I do have a short cycle, but it doesn't prevent. It shouldn't prevent ovulation. I do ovulate every month. So he said that's not an issue. I also have, when I did my my ultrasound to check the tubes, they told me that there was some sort of like my veins, like varicose veins that are like in the back of people's leg. My veins around the uterus are like that. So I said, is that a problem? Because like, is that why? He said, no, that should not be any problem. Like, there's no explanation. Your fertility thing is unexplained. Like, there's no reason why we don't know. And at that point, I said, okay, well, so he said, there's no medication. He said, if you want to have a child, if you really want another child, then you pay the money. If not, then you should be okay. You should accept that one child that you have. I felt hurt when he said that, because I was 100%. Like, how dare you? To tell me.
Bye-bye.
Like, that's it. No, but it also kind of speaks to like the healthcare system at large, right? And what they're willing to do or not do with specific people or specific patients, right? Whoever they choose to or to not help.
And it sounded like he was kind of feeding into like not necessarily your fear, but like when doctors play on women's age for having children, it's like it almost makes the woman feel like it's their fault.
Yeah, the burden is now on you.
The burden is now on me.
Yeah,
it's my fault that I'm older.
Yes,
I have to do what the doctor
or like
asking.
I have one child, so I should be okay with that.
Yeah, and it's like Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. But I was like, you should. It's not his place. Like, it's not your place to tell me what to accept and what not to accept.
Yeah.
And the cost was $11,000.
That's money.
So,
who has the money lying around?
Who has money?
You see me
lying?
I just said, "Ha."
It's like $11,000. And I said, well, like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it. I said I want to be on the list.
Yeah.
And the nurse then hopped on the call and she said, well, Jacendy, you're 29. The list takes 4 years, she told me. And that by the time 4 years come,
You're 33, basically.
And
So
now
you're geriatric.
Meanwhile, even the geriatric thing makes no sense. Actually, technically, like with pregnancies, like after 35, it's considered geriatric. But 35 is like, what is 35?
What is 35?
It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just these white men in lab coats saying
Yeah.
Come
We're
on.
making up all of these,
Yeah.
these things.
so she said, well, by the time you 4 years come, you'll be like, in your mid-30s. So we're not like, it's gonna be, at that point, you're gonna be high risk and all these things. And what if it doesn't work? Your eggs quality might not even be the same.
Egg quality.
And I said, it's okay. Thank you. I wanted
I
to
still
know
want to be on the list.
what I said I want, and then that's when they told me. They said, well, you can't be on the list because we are not part of the government. We're not part of the program. This is Montreal. Like, you would have to be at
They sent you to Montreal.
an Ontario clinic for them to be, and even then, that's gonna take forever.
Right.
So I said, it's okay, thank you. I just needed to know. So my husband and I, we after the call, we talked and said we were no longer gonna be their patients. I said that I was gonna send them an email and just tell them how unprofessional they are. And what they said that hurt my feelings. So that's what I did. That same day, I sent an email and I tagged the doctor, I tagged the nurse, and administrative clerk as well. And I said, you guys were unprofessional. And I said, you have no reason to comment on my age about and tell me what to accept and what not to accept. I said,
considering the emotional state that you're in, they should see this over and over and over in order and advise themselves how to even address some of these things.
And that's also the challenge with the private healthcare system, right? Because it's primarily run on money and profit. That's the driving motivation behind trying to get people to do things. Like, whereas, and there are always pros and cons. And I think the healthcare system, we can have a whole podcast, a whole episode on that. I don't think we want to. I don't think we care.
I don't think no.
But the point is that but when it's profit driven, it's very easy to become like that, where they're like, we need this money, and so we're going to play at her age, play on their emotions. Play on this to try to get you to borrow $11,000.
Yeah, to come and do something that could or may not work.
And then it's like, but then in your head you're thinking, oh no, I have to do it now. Because in 4 years it's gonna be worse. See, it's manipulation. But anyways, I'm sorry.
It is.
Radical work.
It is.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I told them I was not happy with the way that they treated me and my husband, and they did not ask us what we wanted to do. They already made a protocol for us. They chose a protocol, what they were gonna do, when they were gonna start the treatment, and everything. And I'm on the call like,
they already have
what
a
are you
rubric.
guys?
You just
I don't want
rubric.
IVF. And we just we parted ways. We said we didn't want anything to do with them. And my husband and I, we had a conversation. He said, what's next? And I said, you know what, like, let's take a break. I said, let's take a break. Let's just stop focusing on baby right now, because it was a lot. It was a lot. And we've paid money for the test and the way that people were treating us. So then I started, like, at that point I said, you know, let's just pray. Let's pray, and God will
do what he does.
Exactly. And summer came, we weren't focusing on like, we weren't trying. We were just enjoying each other. There was I think there was a convention going on, and that week I was very optimistic, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna fast, I'm gonna pray, I'm gonna join the evening service and everything, and see if God will move and shake things up a little bit.
See, maybe this is the time.
Maybe this is, and I was feeling very like positive, very like confident about it. So that week came, and because I've been like praying, and we were fasting and everything, even though we weren't trying, but we were enjoying each other. So
enjoying each other is another word for saying we're having good sex
without the pressure
of the pressure of like, okay, now I have to put my legs up
yes,
to keep the sperm to go into the eggs. Go ahead.
So we at the end of the week, during that week, I felt like the way like the message I was preaching, I felt like it was for me. Like I was so connected, and then at the end of the week, my period came. So when it came, that day, I told God, remove the desire, because I said, we've been going through this for so long now, and it's just hurting us. And I said, I no longer want to feel the pain. I no longer want to feel like when I see people with their bellies, and because at that point things started coming in my head, because you see during that time there were a lot of people pregnant at church.
I remember hearing that and being like, oh, there's something in the water.
Exactly. So you, even at work, patient will come, and then you see them with their bellies, and I'm like, come on, is this like, God, what are you trying to? And so that day I was in the shower, and I let the shower on because I didn't want people to hear me, and I started screaming in the shower, and I said, God, like, just remove it, because I'm like, at this point this is torture. I said, this is torture, and I said, you know what, like, I don't want the desire. If it's in your way for me to not have another child, help me to be content with the one. Help me to enjoy the one that I have now. And I'll be totally fine with it. If I know this is your will, I'll be fine. So after I said that, I prayed, and then I told my husband, I said, you know what, like, let's just leave it in God's hand. If it is His will, we will have another child. If it's not, then it is what it is. There was a retreat coming up, so we're in the summer of 2022. My cell leader was like, you should go to the retreat, because every cell, I said, pray for me, because every week is different. Every month is like, I could be happy,
emotions are
but
different.
then something, even if I pray, but then I see something, or I see somebody, the emotion comes back, and then you feel like God has abandoned you. You feel like He's not listening, or maybe it's something I did, like maybe my husband did something, maybe we're not, there's something that we need to do, and then you started thinking about all these things, right? So at the end of the summer, I just felt like I was so angry.
Because like, all this built up emotions, right? It could be so many emotions. All this built up resentment, all this built up anger, things that you've tried to suppress, happiness, joy, all the things, and then it just bubbles up into this mess of things.
And then there are reminders everywhere.
Everybody
everybody else is getting.
And some people are not even trying.
No. And it's just like, they literally breathe on them, and they're
exactly.
They are.
And people don't know, right? People don't know what you're going through. So people will see you, especially at work. Like, people will see me and say, oh, when are you having the second one?
Those comments.
And all these
At
things.
work, really?
At work, at church, I get that a lot.
I wish I heard
Church.
that at church.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at work.
Those
At
aunties
work.
at church be like, she's lonely now. Your daughter is lonely.
Oh, I've
She
had
needs a brother.
How many times have we said it here? Aunties and uncles.
Them aunties, not so much uncles. Them aunties, though.
aunties.
Yeah.
They've told me that, oh, you're waiting too long. She's already
going.
You should have had another one. Don't wait too long.
But you
Don't
never
wait too
know
long.
what somebody
You
is
never know.
going through.
Yes.
I mean, look at this.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
From 2020 to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they've been sitting idle.
No, it's not like they're just like, oh, we don't care.
They've been there plunging, like. They've been doing the do.
Yeah. And still
And still
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
And you
So-
auntie somewhere.
And
So,
people don't know.
So, aunties,
Yes.
you aunties out there, please,
please tone it down.
God is not happy with you when you do those things, okay? Nobody likes it.
Mhm.
Nobody.
Stop it. Stop it. Thank you very much.
Rant
Yeah,
over.
because they don't know, right?
No.
And at one point, I came home and I told my husband, I said, because somebody said something, somebody from church actually said something and hurt my feelings.
What did they say? Please tell me. Spill the tea. Sorry, you don't need to say who it is. I could probably figure it out in my head. But just please, what did they say, Sandy? If
Well,
you don't
because
mind
she
sharing.
came to me and she's like, oh, like I've had my kids back to back, like I didn't wait too long. You shouldn't wait because
Your body.
so that they can
Oh,
grow
right,
all,
right,
like
right.
together and things like that.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Do it while you're still young, while you still look good.
Yeah.
Because like if you
Yeah,
wait
the
for too long,
snapback- the snapback is not gonna snap back.
and
I know
said,
this auntie. I know this auntie.
and I said,
Roll
said-
eyes.
at that point, I opened up my mouth and I said, I've been trying.
Thank you.
I said,
But the thing is, no. But see, the thing is, you shouldn't be put in
shouldn't have to.
that place where you feel like, okay, let me just explain it to this person to let them know that I am trying.
Yeah.
Like it's not your business.
It's not.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I think to be put in the position
Yeah,
is unfair.
it is.
Right?
It
Because
is.
you don't know what's
You
happening
don't
in
know.
people's
Yeah.
But I do applaud you for even just saying your truth. I hate saying your truth because it's so like, but it's your okay. I applaud you for saying your reality because some people could just be like, and then
They be struggling.
that auntie could just go off and keep saying the same thing to everybody else, but
not
the fact,
realizing.
not realizing that she's hurting people. But the fact that you said I've been trying that for her, of course it will check in her head like,
Oh,
this is actually a reality for
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Sorry, like I didn't.
Yeah.
No, did she apologize at least?
No.
God, auntie. Anyway,
They're judging you.
When
as you can see.
when I said I've been trying, she was just, oh, okay, God, it's okay. God will make it happen. So
blood is just boiling. Sorry. She didn't want to apologize.
no, she didn't apologize. She just said it's okay. God will make it happen. And then
She encouraged you.
when I told my husband,
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
when I told my husband, I went home and I told him.
Was he upset?
He was upset.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I realized something. I said, you know what? I'm gonna change my whole view on how I see this thing. So because I know people gonna come at me and say, don't wait. Why are you waiting? Why? Because even my parents.
I was gonna ask that.
Even my parents. I love them.
Love you, auntie.
But-
Their parents, though.
But my parents, I don't think they knew. I'm really close with my dad. I'm not as close with my mom. But I did tell my dad. But I think it went from one ear and like it went to this ear and came out of that.
Or maybe he didn't go through. Or okay, I don't know. My dad gets really uncomfortable when my siblings talk about like female stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he just kind of like, and he acts like he didn't hear. Like it's the strangest thing. I don't know if it's their generation, but you tell, you'd be like, oh, don't talk to me, talk to your. And, like he literally does that. Like, don't talk to me, talk to your mom, and then he just walks off like nothing happened. So like, what if your dad was just kind of like, I don't know how to handle. Do you think, or he just like really like remember?
Was he dismissive of like?
I feel like he was dismissive because, and the reason why I even told him because I know my dad is like, how would I put it? He's more in a sense of like someone who will like help me pray. If I told my mom, it's like yes, but the reason I chose my dad because I know my dad would like. I'm like, Dad, put me in your prayer list when you're praying, and at church as well when you go to the service. Like that's why I told him. But I don't think he really took it in to see, okay, we have an issue here.
Yeah.
Instead, I feel like he probably thought, because whenever I would go over there and he's talking to my aunts, and I would hear my aunt calling me lazy.
Oh.
Oh, like she's just lazy and doesn't want to give her husband another child. And yeah. And for me, I told my husband, and I'm like, why is she? I'm like, why is she calling me lazy? Like, does she even know what we're going through? And my husband's like, well, she doesn't. But I'm like, even then, you don't call somebody lazy.
That doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense to equate not having sex or not having babies with laziness.
But she called it that. She's like, yeah, like you're just being lazy. I guess you want to stay young forever and things like that. And I said, I didn't tell her anything in front of my parents.
But sorry, let me just pause. But even if you don't want to have any more children and you have one, how does that make you lazy? Like, I don't even understand. Is that like a?
But it speaks to the generation.
Is it a generation thing?
No, it could be a generational thing or a cultural thing.
Okay,
right. I think it's more so a cultural thing because, like some cultures they will just make random comments or anything like that and think that it's okay to say those comments as if you understand what she's talking about.
Right. So is that like a? Because I understand when people say that you're being selfish for not having more children. You see what I mean? In the sense that like you just want to, like you want to be small, but
maybe that's what she's trying to say. But then it came out like it's expressed. It maybe like language wise or language barrier. It's expressed as being lazy. She's really trying to say. Unless I'm assuming here that she's really trying to say that you're being like you just want to keep your body. Right? You just want the one, and you want to keep your body, and you don't want to give your husband some more kids. So it could be a cultural thing or like a language barrier. I would say.
Okay. It could be that, but
but regardless,
it's
still ridiculous.
Is that something that is your aunt Haitian? Because you know us, everybody's auntie. So I have an auntie that's from Antigua. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm Congolese. So she's Haitian, right? Okay. So is that like part of? I don't know if you would know that, but is that something that people say when women aren't having it's laziness, or it's like?
In Haiti, they use laziness for like
a lot of things.
Okay. So that's a cultural thing.
Cultural thing. So like you just want to kind of play.
Lazy is like it's like number one word. Like so they use it for everything.
So that explains her. Okay. Maybe it's a thick blanket off of women. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just like hearing comments like this, and then. Because I'm my mom's only child, I had another family member saying, oh, because her mom only had her.
So she wants to do the same thing.
So she must have, it must have passed on to her. And when she said that, I said, oh.
Almost like a generational curse?
Exactly. I said, no. I went and pressed her no. I said, no, I'm not my mother.
Yeah.
I said, I'm my own person and I want more kids and I will have more kids. I said, God will not, I'm not praying to a God who doesn't listen. So I said, maybe my mom, you don't know her story though. I told her, I'm like, you don't know her story. I said, you don't know, she's from Haiti, you're from a whole other country. You just met her here. You don't know her whole life. My mom had other kids. Unfortunately, didn't make it. But that doesn't mean
and you don't know that.
Exactly. And she doesn't need to know that.
Exactly. So all these things, people were just like going off and making comments, and then I realized all these things were getting to me, and it was just making me more angry.
Of course.
So I decided that, you know what, I'll educate them. So when people ask, then I'll tell them. If you want to know, I'll tell you. So at work, I've had patients come and we keep chatting, and they'll ask me, and then I say, oh, actually, I've been trying for a couple of years now. And I felt like as I was doing that, it started making, like, I started feeling better.
Yeah,
because
it's taking the burden off.
It's taking, exactly, because then I realized some people had similar stories, and we would like share, and I would share it with them, and they would tell me their story as well, and it was always the same, like they already had a kid. This is their second time trying, and some even did IVF. So when I'm hearing these stories, and I'm like, why am I meeting people that are in the same situation as me? I'm like, maybe this is something that I need to go through this in order for me to, like, this, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I must go through this process. There's something that God wants to teach me. So I started doing that and sharing, anybody who asked, that just openly share it with them. Some will be like, even those who probably they're not Christian, but they will give me like good, they'll give me like advice, and like keep your heads up, and I'll keep you in my thoughts and things like that.
Positive vibes.
Positive vibes.
Positive vibes,
exactly. But so yeah, when my cell leader told me about the retreat, at first I wasn't thinking of going because I thought, well, like, I'm upset. I'm mad at God for not giving me what I've been praying for. So I've thought about it, and then I said, you know what, I haven't been in a retreat in a while, and I felt like this time was the best time to go to a retreat. There's a lot I need to, there's resentments, there's all these things that I need to get off my chest. So I signed up for it. Going to the retreat, I even put the whole trying for a baby in the back of my head, because I said I don't want to go and have that as my main focus. So I went, and I said I just want to rekindle my relationship with God, because I felt like I've been like,
for folks that don't know, it's a church retreat, like a church kind of
not yoga,
not yoga or
meditation and
stuff. No.
Yes.
It's a church retreat. Going to meet God in like a secluded place.
And Holy Spirit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's not get it twisted.
Don't get
not
it
yoga.
Twisted. It's called Believers Retreat. So I've signed up for it, and at the end it was September 30th to October 2nd, I believe. So we went to the retreat, and I didn't know. I know that I went there to reconnect with God, but I didn't know that there was more that was gonna happen at that retreat. So I went to the retreat. I went to the retreat. The Friday night, you get there, you introduce yourself, we've prayed, and then they're giving everybody the rooms. You go to your room, you sleep. The next day you wake up super early in the morning, we've prayed, have breakfast, and there's teachings throughout the day. There's prayer going on, and Saturday night is the deliverance night. And I was looking forward to that deliverance night, because they give you like a sheet of paper during the day that have all these things that you must select. If there's anything in your family like witchcraft, voodoo, if there's any addiction that you're still battling, if there's anything that there's so many things that you can think that the world that you need to be delivered from, then you must check them. And then during deliverance night, you bring it with you, and they've prayed, we sing, we do worship and praise, and they move all the chairs, and of course that's when things are about to get real.
Fire!
So, people about to get delivered from pornography, from all these things, demons and for me personally, I remember when the pastor called, there's someone here who's been mad at God, who've been feeling like resentment and things like that, and I was like, this is for me. I must go to the front, because I need deliverance like right now, because I was mad at God for this thing, and So I went forward, they prayed for me and things like that. So every time they would call on something, like there was somebody who, her and her mother don't have the best relationship and things like that, unforgiveness. For me, that was also big too, so I went forward. And at the end of the night, I felt like I was light. I felt like something, the burden had been lifted off my, shoulder. Before they concluded the night, one of the pastors said, you know what? I felt like God has put this in my mind, and I need to pray. There's someone here with, if you've had any issues with your reproductive, that's how he put it, system, like if you've been having, he didn't even say infertility. I went forward because I'm like, listen. This, I don't know what's going on, but there's something God needs to stir up something in there, and like if I need to vomit it, I will vomit it. That's what was in my mind. I'm like, if I'm not gonna be ashamed, I need to vomit. Whatever I need to do at this point, I will do it. So I went forward. Someone else also came forward, and they've prayed for us. And I've never cried. I've cried, in my room, in the shower. But I've never cried in front of people. Like, I don't think it was crying. At that point, it was like wailing, like
weeping. Like gnashing of teeth and weeping. I feel like that. Oh gosh.
And after that, I just felt like, that's when I felt light. I felt like something was just like, there was something
just dropped,
I felt like there was something like suppressing me. Like there was something that was,
binding
holding
you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But after they prayed for me and I'm on the floor like snot coming out and everything.
That's when you know. Ugly crying.
Ugly crying.
Were you wearing a scarf too, or
I didn't have a scarf, but ugly crying, and I'm like, I don't care who's like looking at me right now. Like I'm just When I got up, I was like, this is it. Like I'm like, this is it. And I went to bed. When I went to bed, I had a dream. So when I had the dream, because they said if you have a dream, if God has given you a word or whatever, don't go and tell the others that are there with you. You can talk to a guide and just explain it to the guide or whatever. Don't lay hands on anybody. If God shows you that you've been like you're praying, you need to pray for somebody. Don't lay hands on nobody. Like just talk to one of the guides and stuff like that. So the dream that I had, because one of the guide wasn't my dream. I went to her and I explained the dream to her, and it was a bunch of keys that was given. The guide gave me, and she told me to hold the keys for her. And when she told me to hold the keys, I was in the grocery store near the fruits, and I saw that my hands, I didn't want to lose the key, and I put the key somewhere, and I said I don't want to lose it. She came back and said, oh, like, I'll take the keys. So I gave her back the keys, and then she took off. So I woke up from the dream. I didn't know what it meant, because I'm like, it's a bunch of keys. Why am I holding the keys for her? Why couldn't she hold her own keys?
Or these keys.
So,
get these keys.
But I told her, and then she said, we'll pray about it, and God will reveal the meaning. I said, okay. So now, it was a Sunday, where it's a 2-day-and-a-half retreat type of thing. So we leave on the Sunday. We go back home on the Sunday, but before that, it's the feeling of the Holy Spirit and all that. So during that time, as we're worshiping, praying, speaking in tongues, I hear, this time next year, you'll give birth.
Ooh. Come on, Jesus. Come on, God. Goosebumps.
So, and everybody's eyes closed, right? And it was just, all you're hearing is like, people speaking in tongues, the pastors going around preaching and laying hands on people. My eyes are closed because I'm like, I want to focus. Like, I don't want to open my eyes and see who's falling, who's not. Like, I'm here for me. So I said, I'm just going to focus. And the pastor was like, Jesus, he's in the room. Jesus is in the room. He's walking around. Don't hold back. And when I heard that, I was like, tears started just pouring down my cheeks. And I was like, this time next year. So we left the retreat. We didn't have our phone because they took our phone. So when they gave back my phone, the first thing when I came back to Ottawa, I called my husband and I told him what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I heard. This time next year, I'll give birth. But me being human,
automatically.
So when I came back, I said, we must get to work because
I mean, if I calculate,
yeah,
I do the calculation because in my head I'm like, okay, this is the word that I get from God. It's a promise. So we must act on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Faith.
So
this ain't no virgin. This ain't no Jesus number 2.
Nope. This is not Holy Mary.
And I started calculating because it was October, and I said like, if by November we get pregnant, I'll give birth sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
Like
Fair.
Yeah.
this is how it works.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And November, Daniel fast came around, and I'm like, focus. I'm like, I'll do 6 to 6.
Oh gosh, the fast of 66.
Yeah, because I've always done the
Daniel one.
the
Daniel fast.
no fruit, no sugar, no meat.
Yeah.
But this time, like, I need to take things serious.
God give me a word. You know what?
I need to starve for 40 days.
I'm gonna do
To
6
make sure.
to 6 because I can't like.
You can't mess this up.
I can't mess this up. And then Daniel fast finished. I'm not pregnant. So now December come. Remember, I started trying December 2020. So now December 2022. I said this has to be the month.
Yeah.
Because the year about to end, and I'm turning 30. I always say I want 2 kids by the time I'm 30 years old. So when people will ask, "What are you doing for your birthday? Are you excited?" I'm like, because I felt like I'm not reaching my goal.
Yeah. You're like, you're focusing on there's something that I need to do by
I'm not
30.
reaching my goal. So when December 2022 comes, it's the end. It's the last day. And I realized I'm not pregnant. So I kind of fell into like
And her birthday is on the 30th
Is
of
it the
December.
30th?
it's on the
close to the
30th.
New Year,
It's on the 31st. So I started feeling sad.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but then I started doubting myself because I'm like, did I not hear God?
Did you hear?
That's the other. And
Can I just
everywhere?
I just put like a this is the church coming. That's what the enemy likes to do. I remember hearing Jackie Hill Perry saying that, like, the enemy's tricks have not changed.
No,
since
the devices have not.
He hasn't changed. He'll come and say, did God really say? Which now makes you question your faith. And faith, the Bible says that it's impossible to please God without faith.
Yeah.
So if the enemy can just make you doubt and remove the faith, like,
Yes.
so he'll do that. Like, you know for sure you heard from God.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's like, did I really hear from God?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. And then all the other memories will come. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe it's not God's will.
Somebody was saying that
Classic.
sometimes it's not the God's word, it's not God's will. That when those are clear, it's the weight that is like
the waiting. Yeah.
That's where you're really being tested.
Yeah.
Right? You're really being tested. Your faith is being tested.
Yeah.
Your willpower is being tested.
Yeah.
Just the waiting period. Sometimes it's not God's will.
Yeah.
God's will comes very clearly. God's word comes very clear. But God's when.
Yeah. God's when.
God's when.
Yeah.
Is the tricky part.
Yeah. And in church, like last week, our pastor was talking about how even waiting is a form of warfare. You know what I mean? Like, people like to think that waiting is like a passive thing where you don't do anything. But when you're waiting, you're just like, God, I'm just waiting for you. I'm trying. Like, I'm not gonna do all these other things that people are saying. I'm just waiting for you. Like, that in itself is warfare. It's really powerful.
It's like and you're very sure, but the when, the uncertainty of the when is wild.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
Church hat off. Continue, please.
So I started thinking, like, in 2019, I had a dream. And in the dream, I had triplets. and the names were given to me. It was Sarah, Hannah, and Malachi.
Wow.
So then, December 2022, when I noticed it wasn't like I'm ending the year and it's still not happening, I started having flashback, and I'm like reflecting on the dreams. Like at that time when we had the dream, my husband even wrote down the names and was gonna paint the woman by busting it to put.
So you bet it's on your face, man.
Because
He's acting on faith.
When we had the dream and when we started trying, when we were praying, we were like naming the kids, like Sarah, Hannah, Malachi. My husband wanted to paint the room and like he said we have another, when it wasn't happening, he said maybe we need to buy cribs. And we already had one crib. We needed to buy two more to put.
Because you're having triplets.
Yes. And I was like, you know what, like, no, hold on the on the painting.
Put some brakes on it, okay?
But I reflected and I started thinking back what it truly means. Because it's been 2 years. It's not happening. Sarah had an infertility issue. Hannah was like... So I was like, God.
Speak on it.
Why me? I said, when I had the dream, I didn't realize that he was preparing me. He was giving me a glimpse of what was gonna happen, what I was gonna go through. But I was like, what about Malachi?
Who's Malachi?
Yeah.
Sir.
Where does Malachi fit in this whole thing?
Wow.
But then also, that's for a different time. But during the year that I actually had that dream, Malachi my husband and I, we were questioning how tithing works. Like, do you give a portion and keep the rest because you don't have enough?
Yeah.
But when we had the dream,
thing.
Malachi 3 verse 10.
Isn't that the one? Bring your tithe to the storehouse.
Yeah.
And like, basically God is saying that, I don't want to say the one thing, but it's just paraphrasing. Like, trust me and see if I'll.
If I do not, let me read
put the
Malachi.
Malachi,
why not?
Why not? Let's go into the word. Amen.
But I know what the scripture is talking about.
Like
trust me and see, like put me through the test or something.
Yeah,
like
test
that.
me and
test
see
me
if I won't open the doors of heaven, the gate of heaven, and pour out.
Yes. We're doing very well. We're getting most of the words. Oh gosh. Look at
see if I will not pour out
the
floodgates. Something.
Yeah.
Malachi 3:10. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse, so there will be enough food in the temple. If you do, says the Lord of heaven's army, I will open the windows of heaven for you. I will pour out a blessing so great there will be enough room for you to take it in. Try it. Put me to the test.
So that was it for the Malachi, but it had nothing to do with infertility. But in 2022, I started thinking, like, the end of time, I'm like, okay. I started trying to add the puzzles to the pieces together to see, like, what's the main message.
Yeah.
Okay, like Sarah, yes, I know. Hannah, I know. But like with Malachi and everything. So then I realized, you know what? All this thing, it's only hurting me because I felt like I was doing things with my own power. And like I said, I trusted God, but I didn't really trust Him because like I'm doing everything on my own, thinking that it's God's doing. So January, just a little sidetrack. November 2022, my husband and I decided to go back to see a fertility doctor. This time it was Ottawa Fertility Clinic, and we had to do the same test over again. The doctor, January 4th or January 3rd, 2023, that's when we went to sit down with the doctor to get the results. So the end of 2022, on December 31st, at church, they give you the list of 12. And one of my thing was baby. So I want a baby. But at the same time, we say that we were not gonna focus on that. If we say we're gonna leave it in God's hands, we're gonna leave it in God's hands. So first week of January, on the 3rd, we went to sit down with the doctor face to face and talk about the results. He said the same thing as the previous doctor, nothing is wrong. But one thing that he said, one thing he did, the other didn't do it. He asked me, what do you want to do? He said we have two options. We can do IUI, we can do IVF. And he said because of the way the cycle works with the IVF, you have to be on a wait list. The IUI, you have to be on a list as well, but it's every April. So since we're in January and then April was just around the corner, he said, I'll put your name on the list. Comes April, we'll book you in for IUI. He said, it's been too long for you to, I want to help you out. I said, okay.
Public healthcare now. You see, they don't have. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I said, okay, sure. Like at that point, I'm like, yeah,
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, God, I don't want to interfere with your plans. What if I'm not supposed to be doing that?
Bring out an Ishmael.
Then it's like I'm contradicting my faith. So I said yes, but I was still like, And I remember it was the same week. I spoke to my dear sister Lynette here, and I told her what the doctor said, and she said, you know what, like, let's set up let's take a day out of the week and pray. At night, it could be 9 o'clock or 9:30, because that's when we put the kids, after we put the kids to bed and everything. So we chose Wednesdays. Wednesday nights every week we will pray for half an hour. And we started doing that. And I remember there was one time before prayer, before we started praying, and I remember you said, let God be God. Don't write the story for him. Let him. And the word came at the right time, because I felt like I was trying to put in my mind how I was gonna put this whole story together, and I couldn't wait to testify.
Like doing it for God.
And I'm like, I have all these scenarios in my mind. The whole testimony is set up for I just needed a day.
I needed a day for the testimony.
Just give me the day. I'll be fine. I'll be ready.
A day. I had everything planned out. I'm like, I can't wait to go in front of a church and just say
I
just needed the day. But everything was just like, it's like I had it written down in a notebook, and I'm just waiting for somebody to call me and give your testimony.
Come and give your testimony.
And when she said that, I was like, oh wow. Then that's when I realized, okay, did not really leave everything in God's hands. And from that moment on, we were praying, and on my own, I would pray as well. My husband and I will pray. So January passed, and then February comes. So beginning of February, I believe it was on the 6th, I was backing up for praise and worship. We were supposed to wear white. I know, because I have an app for my period. I track my period and everything, so I know that day my period was gonna come. So I put a pad on just in case. I'm wearing white. I don't want any
no trouble.
No problem. So I went to church. The whole time at church, I felt like the cramps. The period cramps. I felt it, and I'm like, oh, it's coming. And then I was like, but then again, it was a different feelings, because I didn't have so much expectation. Because I said that, you know what, if it comes, it comes. This next month, you will keep on praying. And the day after church, I went to my parents, and I was just lying on the couch, and I received a phone call from Pastor, and she said, your name just came up in my head, and I thought I would call to see how you're doing, and also, you've been waiting for too long. Why don't you come and see me this week, and I'll pray for you. I said, okay, Pastor, I'll come and see you. And when she called me, for some reason, I felt like it was strange. Not what Pastor usually give us a call once in a while, but the timing.
Yeah.
When and the fact that she mentioned about like me being trying for too long, I said this must mean something. So from that, the moment I hung up the phone, I started praying. I started praying and rebuking my period.
Rebuke this period in Jesus' name. Oh no, vision.
And I started declaring that I was pregnant and that this period is not gonna come. You're not gonna interfere. You're not gonna interfere with this baby, this pregnancy. So I started like praying and I told my husband about it. He's like, really? I said, yeah. I'm like, don't you think it's strange that pastor will call on the day my period's supposed to come? And then he said, yeah, but I said, okay, well, maybe it'll come tomorrow. So the Monday comes, I went to work, still nothing. And I'm like, at that point I realized, I said, okay, my period sometimes comes, it could be a day late or two, but never more than that. So the Tuesday comes, nothing. Then that's when I'm like, okay. And it was
look at the camera. Show you cover your face because you're like, oh. Sorry.
And the funny thing, I had the same period cramps as I would like if I was having.
I had that with as well.
Yeah.
And
So it's like the breakthrough, whatever cramps.
It's just like I think it's implantation.
Implantation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I had that as well, and I just kept thinking, oh yeah, my period's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. 3 weeks later, it's coming.
It's coming.
Nothing.
And it is.
Implantation. That's what it is.
The only difference was like I was craving salads. And I went and bought salads.
So I had salad cravings
I
too.
want salads. Just eating salads. And then the Wednesday used to be, I think you have to get a pregnancy. I think you're pregnant. I think you're pregnant.
Justin said that? Oh.
He's been monitoring too.
And then I said, okay, I ordered like a pregnancy test. And on the day that I ordered it, I went to see pastor. And then she's like, like encouraging me. Because I don't know yet. She doesn't know yet. So she's encouraging me. And she's like, there are a lot of couples that have gone through this. And sometimes it can break you even as a couple. Some people can get divorced. It's like, thank God you have a husband who, because you can start pointing fingers at each other, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, thank God you have a husband who's also in Christ, and realizing that you're not the issue, he's not the issue, and you guys are praying and sticking together. So she gave me good advice, and she encouraged me, and she prayed for me. So I left, I went home, and then took the pregnancy test. And then it came back positive.
Yay!
Oh my God. It said I think it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks pregnant or so. And prior to that, part of writing the story and putting this whole thing in our mind, we always did we always ask each other, my husband and I, we were wondering how we would feel when we see that pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I'll cry.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hug.
Whole movie. So then what did you do?
We just stare at each other.
Oh my God.
We just stared at it because he was like, no. I'm like,
because it's that sense of
after
unbelief,
so long,
right?
Yes, after so long.
Yeah.
And it's not like we did anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't tracking my ovulation.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I don't even know when it happened.
Yeah.
So we were just like, oh, wow, this is it.
Yeah.
God did it.
Yeah.
And that weekend, it was our anniversary and stuff. So we were just like, wow, God. And then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a second. I was supposed to start IUI in April. And I remember one thing you always say is that God doesn't share his glory with anybody. And I was like, imagine, just before, we're in February, the next month was March, so April would have come, maybe I would have gone through with the IUI thing, and then it's like, what, the doctor, oh, thank you, doctor, for helping me conceive my child. But God had a whole plan. It's just, it took me long enough for me to realize what his plan was, and also I one thing I always look back and I say that he gave me all the hints, the dreams, people that I've encountered along the ways, pregnant or people who are also going through the same thing. I just wish that I had hold on the faith, but then again, I'm like, it was
so hard.
It was hard,
and it, you know, it's all the things that you got. It's completely, it's human, and it's valid, and I think we can mix up that, and like especially in our Christian walk, to kind of separate the two. But you're not capable. It's not very easy to separate the two. You're human. You're a Christian at the same time, and doubts come, and disbelief comes, and lack of faith comes. So all of those, it takes you through that walk. And just look at the journey, right? And like you don't know in the middle there what God did in people's lives because of your obedience, because of your obedience to share your story, right? Because like, as Christians, we don't do that enough, right? We don't share this story enough. We don't talk about these things enough, and you don't know what God has done through you and through that journey. And you don't readily see it when you're in the midst of it, when you're in the thick of it. It's very hard to see. So you should be able to kind of give yourself grace that you went through it, and even in the highs and lows, you still went through. You still were pushing yourself through it. You still were going and not giving up. But there were moments that you probably wanted to, right? Which is
definitely. And if we look at even just a perfect example in the Bible is Abraham and Sarah, right? Like God had told him that he will have a child. Told Sarah the same thing, and within that, Sarah was like, "Fam, this is not happening. Hagar, come." You know what I mean? So like, I think us going through that period of trusting God, questioning God, trusting, and all of that, it's the human experience, right?
And it's like molding you in a way.
Yes, because now you're at a point where you're like, well, I guess I'm speaking for you, but this is what I would think. Where you're like, God's word is true, regardless of how long. It still comes to pass. You know what I mean?
It builds resilience.
It
builds trust, faith, more than you probably had at the beginning, right? Because if it had happened like that, it does happen sometimes. It happens like that, but you don't know what God was teaching you through that time, right? That course of time that you did, and building you up and building your faith up, building your husband's faith up, because you don't know who it was for. It probably even wasn't for you to go through. It was probably somebody, a subsidiary, right? So and it's only when you meet God that you ask about these questions.
You'll probably be like, oh, there was that one girl. You don't know her name.
In the hospital or somewhere.
She came. Like, I needed you to tell her because she was about to do something. You know, you never know. And I think that speaks to like how big God is, right? Because here we are thinking like, for example, your experience, like you're only thinking about your experience. But God is looking at your experience and it's like, okay, but then they're like all these other people that are having issues. Okay, this person's gonna come into Sandy's path. I'm gonna use her to figure this out. While this person is gonna come and meet this person here. So like,
God's plan is always great, it's always big, and sometimes you see yours as a very insignificant, or you see yourself this small thing as part of God's bigger plan, which you are, but God can use anything, anyhow. I was listening to this thing, this little clip by John Bevere was saying that some people see themselves so insignificant in God's bigger plan. And it was kind of like a skit where it was like a mother goes before God and is telling God like, oh, I didn't have all this time to go to church and do all these things because I had 4 boys, like I was only mothering and all of it. I'm so sorry. And God was like, no, that's exactly what I wanted you to do. That's exactly who I wanted you to do, because through you, so and so got saved, your children got saved, and through your children, these and these people got saved.
I think I saw that somewhere.
And like you were an accountant. Because you were an accountant, that was what I wanted you to do. Because of you, these bunch of people got saved. Right? So your story is never insignificant. Yes, as huge as it is may seem to you, and in that time, how much you were struggling, it could have been just for somebody totally different that was going through something completely different than you, right? So,
but the struggle is
very real.
Tough. It's very real.
very real, and we applaud you for sharing.
Yeah,
It's not an easy thing to share. It's not an easy thing to go through and then have the story to tell, because a lot of people haven't gone through what you've gone through.
And I think I remember seeing you like a couple of, because like we're not in church together anymore, but I remember seeing you like at bits and odds throughout the years, and it didn't even look like, oh, Sandy looks kind of sad. Like, granted, like I don't really know what you look like sad, but you look normal. You know what I mean? So I feel like you carried yourself with grace regardless of which pregnant woman was coming in front of you. You know what I mean? I know me, I'd just be like, listen, I'm not coming to church again. You pregnant people, get behind me.
Well, there's one time because when I noticed a lot of people were getting pregnant, and I'm also like, I want that, right?
Yeah,
so I started thinking, I'm like, but then I also don't want to feel left out. Because some people knew that I was trying and things like that, and I kept telling myself, I don't want them to feel sorry for me. I don't want them to not want to share their experience because I'm in the room. So I said, I want to ask questions. How are you feeling? Have you felt the baby kicking? I wanted to share that moment with them, because I don't want to be. Otherwise, it's bitterness, it's jealousy that's gonna creep.
Absolutely.
So I said, I don't want any part of that, because it's so contagious. It's so easy for you to start feeling like that, like bitterness and all that thing.
And I'm so proud of you, because that time there was a lot of people getting pregnant, and you carry yourself with so much respect, because a lot of times people will just get really bitter, be like, oh, that's happening to everybody and not me, like, you know what I mean? It's very easy to get to that, and like I appreciate that about you.
And when you were pregnant with Elsie, somebody looked at you and then looked at me.
Right?
Oh,
yeah, at church.
At church.
Was this an auntie?
Oh yeah, auntie, of course.
Aunties,
we are judging you.
We are
judging
God.
But I want to give it up to both of you guys, because one thing that you said, both of you did, that I think is, I root for it all the time, is the fact that you both joined hands in prayer to pray for it. Because there's one thing to pray with your spouse and pray with pastor, but it's another thing to pray with like a girlfriend about something, you know, because I know for a fact that when girlfriends come together and they say we need to pray about something, like God is like, oh, all these women are coming to pray. You know what I mean? Yeah. So big up to you guys for, you know, that you madam.
Yes.
So say let God be God.
Let God be God. Yes.
I love that.
And before I forget, just to kind of put it out there, my son was born exactly at the time God said it was going to be.
October.
And it was Thanksgiving.
Look at God.
Look at God. I was excited.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
This episode, we're wrapping up because we all have kids we need to tend to. Sandy has to go pick up her miracle baby.
Malachi is his name.
Yes.
I knew it when she said the dream. I was like, this is just epic. Of course his name is gonna be Malachi. I just love this. Look at God. Thank you, Sandy, so much for this episode. This episode for me has been a reminder that God is great. That's it. You know, sometimes we forget. Like, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I told you guys a story maybe yesterday.
Yes.
We'll share that another day podcast. But it reminds me that God cares about the smallest things. Like, even though having a child is not a small thing, but just anything about you, God cares. You know, and it's a good reminder for me to know that such a big God cares about us. Like, who are we that He's mindful of us, right?
That's it.
So thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it also goes to the point that we always try to make here on this podcast, that you are not alone, right? Like we are Christian women, and even if you aren't Christian, just know that there is hope, and that you are not alone. That there are people out there that are probably going through the same things that you are. Take Jesus.
Yes.
First of all. That's one. If you don't know Jesus, please come to
Don't make them feel bad now.
Please come to the altar. Come to Jesus.
The altar. Well, I don't know the rest of the lyrics. Why do I do this to myself?
Open wide.
Yay!
I'm sorry. I always put the
first 2 words, and then after that, it's like
The
the fact.
Father's
Sorry,
heart.
please go ahead.
For sure, know
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're not alone. That God is looking out for you, and in the midst of it all, the mess and all of it, you are not alone.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
For joining us.
Yes.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Please like and subscribe.
Like and
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe.
Until next time, folks. Bye.